Why don't you talk to me a little bit about your management style? I mentioned earlier, you've had a ton of success, very well respected, not just from me, but all the guys in the plumbing department, dispatch, company-wide for sure. What does your management style look like? What does your day-to-day look like? Bring me into that.
My managing style, I probably would say, is kind of old school for somebody my age. I like competition. I like keeping the guys on the edge. Each tech has their own scorecard, and we build this data and we set goals for the end of the year and try and make sure they're on pace to hit those. So my day-to-day, I pretty much start every single day with a one-on-one with each technician, go through the roster, make sure everybody's getting time for us to sit down and talk about things.
And what are you doing in this one-on-one?
Generally measuring our, key performance indicators, making sure that we're hitting, our efficiency margins, where we want to be for them at the end of the month, which of course ends up to the end of the year, making sure we're hitting these milestones we set. Like to talk about personal things, make sure there's nothing, that they got going on, they want to talk about. Good time to talk about trucks, stay up to date on maintenance. At the end of the day, the truck is the tech's office, right? If there's something wrong with it, it's going to drastically impact their day-to-day life. And then sure, other things come up in them, but that's kind of the gist of it. That's what we try and hit on every time. Then from there, I try to get out in the field, generally where I'm needed. If there's bigger jobs going on, I want to get to those, make sure everything's being done by the book. Of course, there's always, issues that come up, crazy situations. You open up the wall, there's something crazy going on. So I like to try and get to those. And then any downtime is working on, customer development and employee development and making sure we're hitting all of our marks.
What is the hardest part about your job?
Probably being transparent with frustrated customers. At the end of the day, there's some things that are just outside of our control, and trying to explain that and making us, making the customer feel comfortable that we're doing what's best for them.
Yeah. I've learned that's very difficult, right? It's like I always try and put myself in their situation, and a lot of times I can understand why they're frustrated, but they also don't have the knowledge. They don't understand what's going on. I think everyone would back the fact that we'll always admit fault when we're wrong and try and take care of it, but that is certainly difficult at times.
Exactly. Yeah. It's much easier if we did something wrong. Genuinely, I think a customer is very understanding of that. The toughest situations are, say, a piece of equipment fails. And yes, we put our name on it and solved it, but generally it's not our fault, and that's definitely the toughest.
So within these trades, if you were to start over, would your path be the same? Would you go a different route? What would that look like?
If you have some mechanical skill set, you grew up working with your dad, even, swinging a hammer, doing things like that around the house. I think your best bet is to find a company that is going to pay for you to learn. And if you are content with, being a journeyman plumber or an HVAC install or something like that, that's going to be a great career path. If you have a goal of developing into some kind of project manager role, management director role, anything like that, I think the strongest thing I would say is to get some experience in finance. Is that maybe night school going for finance, maybe some type of shift where you're working a couple days a week, going to school the other days a week. I think that is the biggest thing, is understanding numbers, understanding why things need to be built out the way they are, understanding job costing, all of those things. I think that's going to be the biggest upper hand you can get over the actual trade. I think there's a lot of companies, including ours, where there's a lot of great people that you can learn from. But I'm definitely not against trade school. I'd never try and talk anybody out of it. But I think if I was to redo it, that's potentially what I would do.
What advice are you giving you go to a lot of these job fairs, do a lot of the recruiting. Is it the same advice you give all of them? Do you think it's different based on the person?
It's definitely situational. If you have zero experience with anything, trade related whatsoever, I think it's an awesome path. It's going to give you the fundamentals you need to have that competitive edge. It's just very situational.
Now, let's transition a little bit here. Plumbing, you never know what you're going to run into, right? You get the service call. My favorite part of being a service tech was when I'd just have that truck go job to job. You get to diagnose something new. But every now and then you're throwing a curveball. Any jobs come up to mind that were maybe unique, difficult, or just different?
So there's always like little things you see where I'm like, why did they do it like that? But I ran into one a couple weeks ago with one of our techs that I had called everybody in our company that's done this for a while, and they were all kind of mind blown. Your father was like, "I've never seen that one before." I called a couple retired plumbers I know, and they were like, "Yeah, this is crazy." So the customer had a commercial style toilet in a stairwell, underneath of a stairwell. So there's no room for a toilet tank. So they had a Sloan flush valve on it, probably early 1900s. It had been updated, but it didn't make a lot of sense of how it was functioning. So we ended up finding a expansion tank in the basement because there's not enough volume in the house to create what's necessary for that toilet to function. And the toilet was not functioning. That's why we went there. And it was just something I'd never seen before. So we ended up replacing it with a well style expansion tank, and that allowed us to create the volume that they didn't have with the smaller diameter pipes that we see in a residential situation.
That's unique. Yeah, that's very different.
Super
that's
off the wall, yeah.
Getting a lot of expertise in the room certainly goes a long way.
Exactly.
So Justin, you're 25, plumbing service manager at Cellino Plumbing. What HVAC, there's a lot of changes in technology, everything else. I know plumbing, maybe not as much. We see it in the tankless. We do see, toilets that are flushing differently or wall mounts. But what do you see as the vision or the changes moving forward?
I think no matter what, as plumbers, we deal with gas a lot. We're going to definitely see some changes with that. We already are with tankless, like you said. We got tankless water heaters we're putting in now that are 97% efficient. That's massive compared to 5 years ago. So that's going to be a constant battle. It's really interesting to see customers make the decision of if they want to fix gas lines or just go electric. So I think we're going to kind of see a decline in that as well. As far as drainage, things like that, I can't predict any major changes, but there's always little things that come up every couple months that are innovative and change how we do things. But I think the biggest changes we're going to see, though, are in hot water and gas appliances.
Now, water heaters, I often get asked, is there a big difference between the water heaters? And then I'm going to ask you the same thing on tankless. Do you think there's a big difference in the tankless, different brands?
Yeah, so we recently have made a switch from our old brand to Renai tankless now, and it's just seems like a far superior product. You can tell their R&D is very involved with this tankless, and they're a company that really only makes, they make a lot of things, but I think their main focus is boilers and water heaters or tankless water heaters. And you can just see it. It's a far superior product. It has all stainless steel components, super serviceable. We went to a training exercise a few months ago, and you can break the whole thing down with one screwdriver. So I think there's going to be more companies kind of getting on board with things like that, making it much easier for the consumer to work on, and obviously meeting the energy factors they need to hit.
What other products or brands, is there anything that you're really loyal to? I know there's a lot of guys in the industry that stay very loyal to one item or brand.
That's probably where my age comes in, because I'm willing to try anything. Maybe not for a customer, but I'm willing to put my hands on anything and at least check it out. As far as brand loyalty, I think we've had very good luck with Zoller sump pumps. But same thing, we have reps coming all the time, and I'm always willing to hear them out.
So I had the Rheem rep came in the other day trying to convince us to start offering Rheem water heaters.
Exactly. Yeah.
My pushback is, well, they sell it at Home Depot. Customers are going to wonder why we're putting in a Home Depot water heater.
Yep.
And they tell you that there's all these differences between it. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something, from the customer's perspective and the tech perspective? Are they that different? And what does that conversation look like?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they dropped a tank off right after you talked to them. So we unboxed it and we were checking it out. Big things I noticed right away is it is a different tank. It has a stainless steel combustion chamber. It has a brass drain, just a little bit better build quality. But the tough thing about it is that, like you said, it's associated with Home Depot. Not that that's a bad thing, but we generally don't want to be, associated with a box store brand water heater. The one interesting thing about that tank is that when you do their upgraded anode rod, it has a 10-year warranty, which is superior to just about everything on the brand or on the market right now.
Yeah.
So that's something where if we can tell a customer that, you're going to get a 4-year extended warranty compared to normal, I think it's a super strong selling point. And if it's something that we're confident in and they're going to hold up their end of the warranty, then I don't see why it's something we shouldn't offer to our customers.
Certainly. Now, last thing I really want to hit on is water treatment. So I know Scott Hillman, you mentioned earlier, was your professor there at Alfred State. He is probably one of the country's most well-known or well-educated water treatment specialists. What do you feel on water treatment here in Buffalo or Erie County?
So city water, Erie County water, it's pretty known. We have high chlorine levels and high or moderately high hardness. So it's a tough thing for a lot of people to comprehend because they've lived without it. You think you have the mindset if I really don't need it, but like any product, if you believe in it, it's something you're confident in informing and educating people on. But I'm a big advocate of water treatment. I personally have a well at my house, so it's almost a necessity, but it makes it a lot easier to explain to people how it works. Kits for a homeowner to install, something like that, I can't speak too much on those. I don't believe that they work, truthfully. I think there's a lot of maintenance, and they're not designed to treat an entire house. But we do quite a bit of city water treatment systems, and it's a huge thing. I've never had a customer who, after the fact, has been like, yeah, I wish I didn't do that. It's more like, when is this going to need to be updated, and when can I get the next latest and greatest thing in?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Now, just before we wrap this thing up, I want to just know more about where you see, we've talked about Cellino and the vision for plumbing moving forward. How about yourself? Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? And what obstacles do you have to overcome? And what do you look forward to learning or doing or changing?
3 to 5 years. I think if you would have asked me this question when I was 20 years old, just wrapping up apprenticeship, getting in a truck, I would have said, running a business looks easy. I'm going to do that someday. The more I do this, the more I think I would rather be a part of a company and have people to work with and build a company. Rather than start my own thing. So you hear a lot of people in this industry that want to do that, and I don't think they're completely aware of what goes into something like that. We've had a couple people try it and it works out for them, and a couple it doesn't. So I think it's a very unpredictable thing. But now I would say my goal is to ride it out at Cellino and see what we can turn this into. A big picture of I'd really like to see us start migrating to further parts of the state once we really hammer home what we want to do here and help develop this into something big.
Great. And last question I have for you would just be any kids out there that are looking to get in the trade. I know you've mentioned find a company to learn through. What if they can't? What if I think it's difficult, right? I don't know if there's a lot of companies that will take on someone without experience.
And
what if they can't? What would be the next step?
And that's where this trade school comes in. The downsides are you're going to have some student debt. You're going to set yourself back 2 years, but you do truthfully learn a lot from it. And somewhere like Alfred, I know like MCC does the same thing. There's a lot of trade schools that do this. They have job fairs twice a year, generally before winter break and before summer break, or if you're a senior before you graduate. They bring in countless companies that are literally setting up interviews on the spot. I believe Alfred, for instance, I think it's something like a 90% job placement rate. So if you go through a program like that, and you really should be able to find a job. Yeah,
that's great advice. Well, Justin, thanks for joining. Is there anything that I didn't ask or bring up that you'd like to elaborate on?
No, I think we hit it all. So thank you for having me, Luke.
Yep. Have a good one.
Thank you.